Greetings, everyone. Hope all of you are having an absolutely fantastic day. Yesterday, we had the Xbox showcase, and right afterwards, Obsidian did the Outer Worlds 2 Direct showcase, where they showed a lot of information about the game. Right afterwards, people, of course, checked out the game on Steam and were confronted with the ugly reality that Microsoft is charging $80 for this title. And obviously that started a whole whirlwind of discussion. Now, before we take this conversation any further, let me make something clear, because I've seen some other content creators talking about this game and they said the exact opposite. So I want to make it clear where I stand. I think Outer Worlds 2 looks great. Not good, great. I think it looks like a significant step forward from the original game. The way flaws have been changed look fantastic. I love the way the new trait system works. I think it's just all geared around the player having an absolutely great time. And I can already see that my live streams for this game will be an absolute ball. There'll be a video coming out tomorrow that walks through more of my thoughts on that matter and the details that we've been informed of regarding the game. But I want to keep that separate from this conversation. This conversation is not about whether or not the game is good or even great. This conversation is about, when you look at the footage for Outer Worlds 2, does it look like an $80 game? Does it look like a AAA, top of the line, best of the best type of title? The obvious answer is no. This does not look like an $80 title. So the question becomes, why is Microsoft charging us $80 in order to be able to get it? And of course, anybody who's been paying attention already knows the answer. It's because they want to push you towards Game Pass. They want everybody, or at least as many people as possible, purchasing the games and playing the games from Game Pass. Now, they did something similar with Avowed, and I didn't really have an issue with it then, but that's because even though I saw the price point as overcharging people for Avowed, it was not overcharging the overall market, right? Like, it was more than what I felt like Avowed was worth, but it was not more than what any other games were being charged at that time. $80 is definitely something new. This is really something we've only seen from Nintendo up to this point, and they have rightly had a lot of controversies running around them because of that. And it seems like Microsoft is trying to jump on the train and basically say, hey, all right, folks, $80, that's what all games are now. And especially when it comes to Microsoft, I feel like the price point is not just about pushing people towards Game Pass. You have to keep in mind, and I tweeted without remembering this and had to walk back that tweet. You have to keep in mind, if a person purchases an Xbox game without Game Pass, they actually own the title. They have the title for themselves. Whereas if you get the game on Game Pass, you do not actually own the game. I had it in my mind that you don't own the game either way, but no, that's not true. When you purchase it outside of Game Pass, you own the game. And we already know a lot of the gaming industry CEOs are trying to fight against game ownership. They want to get everybody on a subscription model, because that way they get your money regardless of whether or not you've played one of their games that month. They can release crappy titles or things that you're not interested in, but you'll forget that that $20 is coming out of your pocket, and they'll continually charge you even if they're not necessarily serving you. I believe the Ubisoft CEO is the one who spoke about this last year and basically said, hey, players need to get used to not owning their games. And he was rightfully shredded for that commentary. Well, Microsoft and Xbox, they're not coming out directly and saying to your face, we don't believe you should be able to own your games. We don't believe in game ownership. Instead, they're instituting price points and policy that make it clear they don't believe in game ownership. And obviously, this is deeply problematic. It is deeply problematic on multiple levels, and it's pretty apparently anti-consumer. Now, all of that being said, I think it raises the question, should you be sympathetic towards Obsidian? Because this is obviously the second time this year that they have dropped or are about to drop a game that I feel like at least looks very good, like a high quality RPG, and is going to have a lot of the bells and whistles that players are looking for. And yet it's in the midst of a nonsense controversy that isn't really centered around the actual content of the game. Personally, to be honest with you, I'm not sympathetic. I love Obsidian. I love Obsidian's games. I've said before, I'll play just about anything Josh Sawyer comes out with. But at the end of the day, Obsidian knew who they were getting in bed with. It's not Microsoft has all of a sudden started doing shady tactics in order to get more people on Game Pass. They've always been this company, right? So Obsidian took that bag, understanding that Microsoft would do whatever works for Microsoft. And now, consequently, they're stuck in a situation where they have continued to churn out high quality RPGs that a lot of players love, but at the same time, these games are being positioned in the market in a way where, frankly, a lot less people are buying them than should be, or at least a lot less people are inclined to buy them than should be, specifically because of some of the tactics Microsoft is using. That's rough. That's really, really rough. So I think the next interesting question becomes, what do we do about all this? Like, what do consumers and people who care about the game industry and don't want these exorbitant prices to go into effect, how do you combat that? And I think it's pretty obvious the only way you can combat it is to not play the games, but frankly, I think that's a bridge headed nowhere. I got to be honest with you. I don't feel like that's going to work. Like, people keep bringing up Avowed's Steam stats to show that Avowed was this big failure, right? And that Microsoft didn't get what they wanted out of Avowed. I don't think that's true at all. I think if you want to know whether or not Avowed was successful, you have to look at his stats on Game Pass, right? And all of the information that I'm seeing come out regarding Game Pass says that Avowed is in the top 3 most played games on that platform, with Oblivion and Expedition 33. So at the end of the day, Microsoft is getting what they want. Anybody who already has Game Pass is essentially going to get the Outer Worlds 2 for free, right? And Microsoft has made it clear, we don't care whether or not this works for people on Steam. We don't care whether or not this works for people on PlayStation. All we care about are the people who are on Game Pass. And if you want this situation to work for you, you'll pony up the $20, $25, whatever it is, and you'll be on Game Pass as well. Point blank, period. There's no way to really combat that. Because at the end of the day, while I have strong issues with Microsoft fighting against game ownership, I'm not also going to sit up and pretend that Game Pass isn't a great deal. Game Pass is a great deal, right? A lot of people cannot afford to pony up $40 to $60 for every game they want to play every year. Game Pass allows them to do that for a much smaller price point, and it's just better for a lot of folks. In fact, I would honestly venture to say Game Pass is better for the majority of people who are playing games. The folks who can really afford to purchase games outright and subsequently own them, it's not that many. It's not that many. Certainly not that many that's buying more than 1 or 2 games per year. So if it's a great deal, even if what Microsoft is doing is shady as hell to push people onto it, I don't know if you can really stop it. I don't know if you really stop it. And it's already obvious that nobody's going to be able to stop what Nintendo is doing, right? They made it clear from the jump. This is what we're charging for Switch 2. This is what we're charging for their games. Deal with it. And there was that initial uproar. And then I think I was just watching a Luke Stevens video where he was talking about he made the decision not to buy a Switch 2 because he felt so strongly about the price point. And then he's had to watch as all the other content creators in his space ponied up for the Switch 2 and are covering it. Because at the end of the day, it's like it can't be stopped. It feels like it can't be stopped. So unfortunately, this almost puts me in the mind that those $80 games, those $100 games, it's absolutely coming, and I'm not sure that there's any way to block this. Anyway, those are my thoughts. I feel like I'm rambling at this point. You all know how I feel. I definitely want to know how you feel. Leave me a comment down below. Like this video if you enjoyed it. Please share it. Please subscribe. If you haven't already, I appreciate all of you. Hope you all enjoy this video. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.